Hello, SGD. Nearly over a year ago now, I started a series on Cygnus, but the North Star. I'll put those links in the description. But in that video and others, I touched on the Zodiac and the precessional cycle. So you might have heard about the 25,920 year cycle of precession. Now there's equinoctial precession, which is related basically to the 12 signs of the Zodiac. And then there's the precessional cycle, which goes around the North Star. So currently the North Star is Polaris, but again there's a just roughly around 26,000 year cycle. But I want to have a look at the Zodiac and the precessional cycle, because this is often spoken about. For instance, the Sphinx looks directly east. So on the spring equinox, just before sunrise, there should be if you're looking along the back of the Sphinx directly east, just before sunrise you should see a constellation, and then the sun will rise. So that's how. But anyway, what I want to have a look at is how does it exactly work. Now, you've seen the 12 signs of the Zodiac, and again, so 12, 360 degrees divided by 12. So each sign is divided up into 30 degrees. But how accurate is that really, and compared to the constellations themselves? So this is a sort of standard image that you've probably seen in relation to this. And again, we see the 12 signs of the Zodiac here on this belt. But you'll notice they're all equally sized and equally distant. And then we have Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio are connected to the 4 cardinal points. But again, how accurate is this really? So there's another one. So again, we have the 12 signs divided up into 30 degrees. The 4 cardinal points. Now, these are often connected, for instance, to the 4 evangelists in Christianity. So you have, okay, to the next shot. So you have the angel or Aquarius, Leo the lion, Taurus the bull, and Aquila the eagle. Now, Scorpio is actually connected to Aquila. Now, if we go back, and if we see Scorpio, well, Aguila's over here. So Aguila's actually closer to Aquarius and directly, just say, above Sagittarius. So it's not actually really anywhere close to being Scorpio. Now, there's a lot that could be said about that, but in terms of the 4 cardinal points and in regards was Aquila in ancient times, well, it's sort of, I find it hard to reconcile that. But so again, the vernal equinox or the spring equinox. So if you're facing east, and it's not just the Sphinx. Ad Orientium is a ancient Latin term for, pointed to the east, as in Oriental, Eastern. And okay, here's the Hoover Dam. Now there's a famous marker there, and if we have a look closer at that, and it's talking about precession. I've got to close it. So the diagram traces complete sidereal revolution of the equinox, otherwise known as the Platonic or the Great Year. So that's another term for it. The average length for the complete sidereal revolution is 25,694. Now you'll find different numbers for there, ranging from about 25 up to about 27, because it's the measurements of this is a bit difficult, and again, elliptical orbits, but 25,694, very close to 25,920. So I'll use that number. Okay, I'll put this link in the description. Eastern orientation in ancient temples, churches, Freemasons. So still now you'll find that things are aligned to the east. It's ad orientium is another term for it. So to the east. Now, for instance, the Great Sphinx points to the east. So again, on the spring equinox, actually on the equinox, if it's measured by spring. So we're in the age of Pisces and we're headed into the age of Aquarius. So if you go to the Sphinx, or you look directly east on the equinox, just before sunrise, where the sun should rise basically directly between Pisces and Aquarius. So we're entering the age. That's what it means. So we're now, even the definition of, some will say we've left the age of Aquarius and we've left Pisces and we're entering Aquarius. Others will say we're still in the age of Pisces. Others will say we're in like a midpoint between the two. But what I want to look at, because again, those, even like here, you'll see it's all divided nicely up into 30 degrees, all the constellations of the Zodiac. which are the pointers like used for that. So 25,920 years, again, give or take, but on average each age should be 2,160 years. Very important numbers in terms of harmonics. But again, now how accurate is this? So, well, the truth is it's a good rule of thumb, but they're actually not very accurate in terms of the actual observations of equinox sunrise in regards to constellations. So there we see the North Star, and we have the Zodiac arranged around the outside. So we're in the age of Pisces and we're just entering it. So you have to imagine you're looking directly east. On the spring equinox in the Northern Hemisphere, that's another important point, the sun will be rising, and that will be the star of Pisces that you'd be looking at, and we're entering the age of Aquarius. Now, each of these lines is 15 degrees, so 2 lines is 30 degrees. You can already, so Pisces, if it was equally distributed, Pisces should be 30 degrees of the 12 signs. But you can see that Pisces is it's 40 degrees. So the age of Pisces is not 2,160 years, it's be pushing 3,000 years that we've been in the age of Pisces. And then you come to Aquarius, and another point is that they actually overlap the constellations and the zodiac signs, and sometimes there's a gap between them, but we can see that Pisces and Aquarius actually overlap. And again, you'd be looking at 45 degrees, so the age of Aquarius that we're entering, it would be 3,100, 3,200 years. I'll do a follow-up video and go into more detail, because now I'm working forwards in time. So in the year 5,200 AD, we'll be leaving the age of Aquarius, or we should be, and we should be entering the age of Capricorn. But you can see that Capricorn is very strongly overlapped and connected, so there would only be 5 degrees, or 500 years instead of 2,160, give or take. It would only be about 500 years that we would be purely in the age of Capricorn. So that would be purely the age of Capricorn, because Aquarius and Capricorn overlap. Next would be entering the age of Sagittarius, and again there's an important point. I'm using the constellation art here, but even the stars themselves that make up pretty much connected there. So in the follow-up, because I just want to show the constellation art, but again the stars that make up these constellations very closely match, and so there will be a slight variation if you're just looking just at the stars that are man-made definitions, because again there's different zodiacs, Indian, Chinese, all these other, so the zodiac we have is not a universal one. But again, now the age of Sagittarius will be again 40 degrees, so pushing 3,000 year age instead of 2,160. And next we go to Scorpio, and even by you can see the stars that make up Scorpio overlapping with Sagittarius once again. Scorpio being very close to 30 degrees, a little bit less, like maybe 1,900 years. And then we have Libra. Libra's a little bit over 15 degrees, so half. So the age of Libra would be just over 1,000 years, and again not 2,160, or give or take. And also there is a nice Libra and the next sign, Virgo, terminate at a very nice, so it's almost as soon as you leave Libra you enter Virgo. But Virgo is a huge constellation. It's 50 degrees, so almost 4,000 years. Again, quite much larger than probably even closer to, well, but a long time in comparison to that 30-degree average. Next we have Leo, and Leo overlaps and is also more than the 30 degrees. So again, it would be 2,800, roughly. I'm just guesstimating these at the moment. Just a short intro video into this, and then we enter the age of Cancer, the crab. And firstly, there's a gap between Leo and Cancer, so there'd be it's at about 5 degrees, 1/6, so probably around about 300 years, where precession, the equinox, would be neither in Leo or Cancer, so there's a gap in between those. And then we enter Gemini, the twins, and again there'll be a gap between Cancer and Gemini, and well, Cancer's a little bit over 15 degrees, so maybe 1,100 years rather than the 2,160. And Gemini's just short of 30 degrees, but still there would be a few hundred years between Cancer and Gemini. And Gemini would be again a little bit short, so let's just say about 1,800 years rather than 2,160. The next age would be Taurus, and again now we have a gap between Gemini and Taurus of about 5 degrees, a little bit more than that. So again that would be, well, a few centuries of the precession of the equinox. Spring equinox in the Northern Hemisphere would not be in Gemini or Taurus. There'd be a period there. And Taurus itself, again, is a rather large one. So it's 15, maybe about 38 degrees. So again, probably closer to 3,000 year age rather than the 2,160. And then we come to Aries, and Aries is maybe you say 15, maybe 20, 25-ish, so that would be even again probably around about 1,800, 1,700 years rather than 2,160. And Aries and Taurus terminate pretty close to one another, so we go one straight into another pretty much. But Aries and Pisces overlap, and that brings us back to the beginning. So that this type of imagery, and good rule of thumb, and like just to get but it's the reality of it is that they're not equally sized. Like compare Virgo or Scorpio to Aries is tiny. That would be a claw on Scorpius. So they're not evenly distributed in terms of that sense, and the ages vary from. Even if you just look at now, for instance, one of the smaller ones, such as like Cancer, that would be a little bit over 1,000 years, but then we have up to over 3,000 years for some of the larger zodiac constellations in terms of the precessional cycle. So again, these are good rule of thumb, but they're not very accurate. It's a good, low resolution image of what's actually happening, but we also have the 4 cardinal points, as I mentioned earlier, and if you now have orientated 4 cardinal points to essentially to the middle of Scorpio, now they will hit Taurus, Aquarius, Scorpio, and Leo, but they're not hitting the middle of them. Like for instance, if I've aligned this one to the middle of Scorpio, and it's right at the edge of Taurus, in the middle of Leo, and right at the edge of Aquarius. So they're, with this type of stuff, especially when it comes to precession, sort of take it with a pinch of salt, because the cycle is the cycle, but the constellations are how we interpret them. You can divide the stars up in all sorts of different ways. And even the way it's the 12 signs of a zodiac are very irregular, very different sizes in comparison, and so they're certainly not equally distanced, equally sized. And although the average of 2,160 years in the great year or Platonic year, the reality of it is quite different. They overlap. Some places there are gaps between them. So it's a little bit in the actual observing of the stars and the precessional, which is a natural phenomenon. Take it, with a pinch of salt in regards to the zodiac and this type of stuff. So I'll do a follow-up, and I'll work backwards and show what the ages were. For instance, the age of Aries and Taurus historically. But anyway, just an intro. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good one.